Okay, so this is going to be a continuation of the previous video on the assembly of my virtual gear car base for the year 2020. As we left off last time, I got to this point where I started off by creating the base, then created the wheel holders, dialed in my axles based upon my sketch. And again, the sketch I'm referencing to was this sketch here, which is actually my last year's model. But due to our time constraints and what we had happen, I'm just going to go ahead and reuse it rather than redraw a new one. Okay. So again, basically I got my wheels on, I got the axle on, I got the base done, I got the wheel holders and the on-off switch on the back. Okay. And when I left off last time, we were talking about the gear ratio and figuring this stuff out. And I went through a calculation. Hopefully you've watched that. You've also watched the 2 supporting videos on how to calculate gear ratios. I'm going to go over a moment how I changed this. I didn't like the way this was set up, partly because I don't know how to attach my gears. Right now, there's kind of free floating, so it's probably not a good setup right here. You got to be thinking about how are you going to put your gears in, okay, where you're going to attach them to. Somewhere in here, I'm going to have to probably create some kind of a block, and I intend to probably screw mine in or some kind of axle to go through there so that these can spin. And right now, this picture is not a good indication of that. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of modification that I'm going to do on my design here in SolidWorks to make this work for me and to get me to the gear ratio I'm looking for, which is somewhere between 30-to-1 and 60-to-1. Okay. Going back to my SolidWorks, that got me to this point here where I got that switch. Now, when I left, the one thing I did forget to do was I forgot to incorporate and bring in my brass collars, okay? And I'm gonna basically bring in 4 of these. And what those collars are gonna do is basically I would put them on the inside. I think in my picture on my sketch, I'm on the outside. But because I'm probably gonna put a gear on this outside edge here, I don't wanna have those because then otherwise my gear will most likely rub up against my wheel. I'm gonna put them to the inside here, okay? And what those collars do is you clamp them down, and what it does, it keeps your axle from sliding left to right. So I'm going to actually add these 2 on, or actually add them on. I'm going to have 4 of them in total, and I'm going to go ahead and get them mated in. Okay, now if you look at your Schoology, I've added in a brass collar part. It's an assembly, but I say it isn't part. That way both pieces come in without any errors. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and insert another component. Now at this point, I do have a brass collar with a set screw in there. I'm going to go ahead and hit a check. And I am going to hopefully find where that went. And I am not seeing the location of this. Oh, there it is. I see it. Oh, it got somehow shoved way up here in the front of my car. All right. Sometimes it's interesting where SolidWorks will drop parts in. In this case here, what I'll probably end up doing is undoing this. I'm going to do a quick Control Z. That way I can bring this into a better thing. So I'm going to again do insert components and drop this out here. I must have just clicked up there. Okay. Now again, I need 4 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do the trick of Control key and dragging. Oops, in this case, Control Z. I want to bring both pieces in. So I'm going to go over here to the design tree, left click and drag another one in. Drag a 3rd one in, Control key, and drag a 4th one in. So you can either drag it from out here or you can drag it from your design tree. Okay, now, pretty straightforward with this. I'm simply going to take my mate tool, clear that. I didn't want an edge. I'm going to clear it to the inside right here, rotate around, and I'm going to lock it in on that axle right there. Okay, so now I've got a concentric mate. Check. And then I'm going to go ahead, and normally when I would build this, I would butt this up pretty close, maybe not exactly against the wood. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and mate it that way. If I did have it pretty tight to the wood, one of the things I've used in the past is graphite. If you've ever done anything with Pinewood Derby cars, my scout guys, or design something with it needs roller, graphite works really well as a lubricant. It's a dry lubricant. Okay. Now in this case, I'm just going to mate it like that. I'm going to repeat this 4 different times. So I'll go up to this one next, take this right here, that surface there, to this surface here, Okay, and then continue to repeat this. Get the inside surface of this part here to this axle here. Rotate this around to that face. And then last but not least, I'm going to get the last one of these axle or brass collars on my axle and finish off by adding in that last relationship, or excuse me, mate. Okay, so at this point, now I have my wheels locked in place, okay? So I'm in good position here. So in reality, if I were building this, this is what my car would naturally look like. The axles will be on the inside, so my wheels now are nice and straight, okay? They are locked in. They're not going to slide back and forth as the car drives. Now, one other thing I have provided for you in Schoology that I created the other day is a kill switch. Now, I have not done that in the past. I decided I have some time while we were in this isolation a little bit. I went ahead and created one. I'm going to go ahead and insert that component. Okay, you're going to need to download and save that to your desktop, to your folder. But I'm going to bring in this kill switch like so. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. That's my kill switch. Okay, it doesn't really matter which side you put it on. I'm just going to take and kind of rotate this. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to kind of put this, a lot of people want to put it in the middle. Okay, but what I'm going to do is kind of put it over here in this corner. So that way I may be able to tape a piece of wood on here to make this lever a lot longer. Why would I do that? Well, think about what I showed you in class. What the actual car is going to do. It's going to go up a ramp. It's going to hit a a coffee can. Okay, part of the grade would have been to shut the motor off. Okay, well, this is not very big. This is actually about what is it, 26 millimeters. So that's 1 inch. Okay, this is approximately 1 inch right here. All right, that's not much. That gives you 1 inch that you have to get within hitting that can. And this is not easy because this is a hand-built car. So what I like to do is extend this, and I usually will extend it 3-4 inches. And that way I have a much broader reach of hitting that can from, even if I'm slightly off just a little bit, let's say it hits on this side, I have a lever over here that will still push and shut, stopping the motor. Okay, whereas if I put it in the middle, if I don't hit it in the middle, it will not turn off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of put mine in that corner. So I just want you to understand the logic behind where I'm placing this and why. Okay, I will rotate this real quick. I want to make sure that the angle piece is more in that direction. So I'm going to do the left side. If you want to put on the other side, then just flip it this way. Whoa, like this, and you can put it over on this side. Okay, whatever your desire is, that is up to you. Okay, so in this case, I'll go ahead and put it to my right-hand side. All right, I'm already in that position. So I'm going to finish by taking this surface up here. I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and glue that surface. Really what you do is you coat it with glue. It would fill in these little grooves and it would actually just mount itself in there. You could also put in some holes in there. There are some holes, at least there were. Yeah, those are holes. We could actually screw screws in there. I prefer not because you can crack it. So if I were actually building this, I would just coat this with wood glue and stick it in the corner. Okay, so I'm going to take that top surface right there and mate it with the bottom surface here. Hit my check. Okay, I'm going to take this, let me see, I'm going to take that edge right there and I'm going to mate it with this edge right here. So it's lined up. And then I'm going to take this face over here and I'm going to flush it up with this face right here. So right now, this thing is in position. Okay, so now you can imagine this rolling up the ramp. Okay, you can bring the coffee can here. Now, I did actually bring in a coffee can. There is a coffee can that I added on. You're more than welcome to bring that into your assembly at any time and just turn it off and on, suppress and unsuppress, so you can make sure that you are matching the height you want. It is actually the model off the coffee can that was at the top of the ramp. But that way you could also look and see if this would bump in. Like I said, I will add probably and create a small piece of wood that's probably about a 1/4 inch of 1/8 inch material. Make it about a 1/4 inch tall by probably 3 to 4 inches long and glue it onto here so it sticks out about this far out here. Okay, that's going to be my choice in the end. You could do something else, that's fine. I've had kids put these in different positions. I've had kids put it all the way to the back. and then put a push rod and have the push rod as it hits, push into this and stop it. It's whatever you want to do. I'm going to try to keep it simple. Okay, so those are the two pieces I forgot to add in last time. So that gives me almost a working car. The only thing I'm missing right now is the battery and battery holder, the motor, and the gears. Okay, I'm going to start putting those things into place here in just a second. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about my gear ratios and what I did to go back and recalculate. So if you recall and watch how I calculated my gear ratio, if you watch the two videos I linked you to, you started learning about compound gears. And the best way to ramp up your gear ratio is through a compound gear ratio. Okay, and if you remember, our gear ratio is a driven gear divided by a driving gear. Okay, number of teeth of the driven gear divided by the number of teeth in the driving gear. All right, so if you look at the model I have in this picture right now, what you see here is you see a 38-tooth gear is being driven by a 13-tooth gear. So the driving gear is 13, the driven is 38. So you'd have a 38 over 13. And if you continue that process, you'd have a 38 over 13, 38 over 13, 38 over 13, 58 over 38. When we worked that out, we ended up with a gear ratio, I think if I recall, about 111, okay? I went back through and started thinking through this, is that's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 gears. That's a lot of gears. Okay, remember, the more gears you put in, the more mechanical errors that can occur, okay? If we abide by the KISS principle, keep it simple, even though we're supposed to use a minimum of 3 gears, if I can keep it close or as few gears as possible to reach the gear ratio I'm looking for, the better off I'm going to be, the less errors I can have. Okay, now what I did is I actually restructured mine to where I'm going to take one of the 38 to 13s out. Okay, and instead of stacking them like this, I'm actually going to put them in a kind of a elongated position. And I'll show you that as I go into SOLIDWORKS. So this is that model change I'm making. So again, if you've done some sketching and your sketch suddenly you realize, hey, I don't think this is going to work, that's okay. As long as you have a basic concept. That's all this real sketch was to get you to think about the concept of what you wanted and give you a starting point. In my case, I know this can't work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is change the way this looks. And what I'm going to do is get rid of one of these 38 over 13s. And by doing that, I get a gear ratio of 38.12 to 1, which is about 40 to 1. That's perfect. Okay, just remember, I'm targeting between 30 to 1 and 60 to 1. Those are pretty common, the gear ratios we usually calculate. And those have worked really well in the past for gear ratios to get up the ramp. So I like this gear ratio. Okay, and I did a little hand sketch of how I'm going to lay that out. And I know I can't share that with you because I did not take a picture of that sketch, but I am going to go ahead and kind of get that set up so you can see what it looks like. And that way you'll understand sometimes the flow and how the model changes. And that's what the beauty of SOLIDWORKS is, that I can change that within the model. Okay, so this is the ratio I'm sticking with. All right, now hopefully between the videos I showed and this discussion, you now know what gear ratio you want and you know how you're going to set it up. If not, watch my assembly and hopefully that will spark your interest in how to get this going too. Okay, my only request is that yours is not exactly the same as mine. Some of you may end up being that way, but my hope is that you can create your own. Okay, so going back into SOLIDWORKS, one of the things I'm going to do up front first is I want to start, I'm actually going to create a subassembly because I'm going to basically glue 2 gears together. I'm going to put a 38 and a 13-tooth gear together. And I'm going to create that as a subassembly. It's just a lot easier just to bring in subassemblies when I need to. So in this case, I'm going to basically start with a new assembly. So I'm going to go tutorial, assembly, and OK. And for a temporary second here, I'm just going to turn on my origins, okay? And I'm going to go and browse for a 38-tooth gear. All right, so I have a 38-tooth right here. I'm going to go ahead and say open. And actually, you know what? In this case, I'm going to say open. I'm also going to save a copy of this into my other folder. Okay, so I want to make sure that I get this right. So I'm going to put that right there. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to get rid of this extrusion here because I think I was messing around with this last year. So I'm going to delete that out because I do not want that. And delete that sketch. As you can see, this is kind of fluid. As I design mine every year, I have a general conception of what I want, but I spend a lot of time editing as I go. And I'm sure some of you are going to be in that same boat, and that is okay. All right, now, from here, what I'm going to do is, and I'm just making sure I got this, and actually, you know what? I'm going to close this out here. And I'm going to open up the ones, we go to, oops, not insert, sorry. I'm going to go into File New again. I'm going to go to the ones we actually created this year because I want to make sure I have the right ones. So I'm going to do Browse, and I am going to go into Gear Car. So I got so many folders, I apologize. Gears, here we go. Date modified. Let me see if I've got any. These are all from last year. I guess I didn't do or save my new ones this year. But what I'll do is I'm just going to go to the most current 12, 13, gear assembly. That's good. 38 tooth gear right here. I'm going to go to this one since it's the most current and bring this in. And again, opening up and turning on my origins. Okay, I'm going to lock this to an origin. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in a 13 tooth gear. So I'm going to again go back to that folder, bring in that 13 tooth gear right here, and drop this back here. Now, the reason I'm putting it on the back side is, if you recall, we have this little fillet on this one side because this is actually where the axle should be going in. Okay, so I want to take and butt this flush face to a flush face. So what I'm going to do is rotate this around so this flush face is flush here. Right now, normally what we would do is we'd super glue those. Okay, if we're building this for real and we're physically in class, we would actually just super glue those two pieces together. Okay, there are other ways of doing it. We used to have what's called a press fit, where you actually heat it up and make it super hot, and the heat would make the plastics weld together. But getting one of those friction welders is not cheap. They're a couple $100 and I just didn't have the cash. So we are going to super glue. All right. Now I'm going to take and rotate this component like so. I'm going to turn on my mate tool and mate that hole to that hole. And then I'm going to pull this back a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to take this flush face right there and mate it to that flush face right there. Now, you may think you're done, but you're not. You got to remember, these have to spin together. They should not be rotating on their own. So when this one and this one are together, it should be locked together. Now, I'm going to do that by locking their top planes together. That way, when I bring it in the model, as soon as I start getting my gear mates involved, these gears will twist together. Okay, this is really important. You do not want these independent of each other. So I'm going to add one more mate here. I will use my flyout menu on the 38 tooth. I'm going to do a top plane. Yep, let's do top plane there. Expand out my 13 tooth gear and do the top plane here. Now they're locked together. Okay. This is a very important piece of this subassembly because when I bring it into the final model, I want these gears to work in coordination with each other. Okay. Now I'm going to save this into my 2020 folder. I'm going to do a file, save as. Okay, so this is I go to my desktop, sorry, I'm going to do Gear Car 2020. As you can see, my C drive is really full. I'll pull all this back in later, actually, once I clear out some stuff out of my folders. I'm going to call this 38_13 tooth, 3813 gear subassembly. Okay, and say save. Now, if you're going to do some compound gears like this, I would suggest you do this specific method. I would bring them in as subassemblies. A lot easier because if you get that done, a lot less mates you have to do in the final assembly. Okay, so I've got that piece done there. So I'm going to go back into my model here. Okay, and now what I want to do is I'm actually going to bring, the first thing I'm going to do is work from my back wheels, and I'm going to move my way forward towards the motor. I'm not even going to bring the motor in until the end. So I'm actually going to set all my gears up first, okay, and kind of get a gear block, and then finish by bringing the motor in and assembling it. It's kind of an odd way of doing it, But if you do this accurately, and I promise you, if we were to actually build these, if you spent time making this super accurate, you literally could build your, what I call gear block, glue it on, slide your motor in, hit the on-off switch, and you're gonna have a perfect set of gears, okay? I'm gonna go here right now, and I'm gonna insert a 58 tooth gear. So I'm gonna browse for it. I'm gonna go back in and get the one I want from my engineering design folder, electric gear car, and my gears. Okay, I'm going to go to the 58 tooth, which I should be seeing. There's a 1220. Where are you? 58 tooth right there. And open. Okay, so here is that gear. All right. Now, I have it in my model, especially if you're looking from the top view, that 58 tooth is going to be on this left-hand side. So I'm going to kind of keep everything the same, so at least know what I'm building off of. Okay, so I'm going to go here and take it and put it right inside this wheel. I'm going to end up putting it pretty much right in here. What I'll probably do for right now is go ahead and just set it on there. I will lock the plane to this wheel, so that way when this gear turns, these wheels turn with it. But I will not put a distance mate on it until I know how I'm going to mesh the rest of my gears. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to get this mate taken care of and go here and mate that to there. Check. And then I'm just going to kind of, at this point, kind of leave it in this position. I may just slide it. Oops. Nope, I don't want that. Sorry, I don't want to mate that. I'm just going to probably slide it in just a little bit until I get kind of in the middle there. Okay, and we can do a middle distance mate, and that would be fine. It may be better to do it that way. And I may just leave it like this for right now. The one mate I do want to do at this point, though, is I want to lock this top plane to the top plane of this wheel. So when the gear spins, the wheel spins. So let's go back and add in one more mate. Work amongst my flyout menu with the gear right here. I'm going to go top plane. And now I got to find that 3-inch wheel it matches up with. So I'm going to kind of hover on each one until I see the orange box appear. Then I'm going to expand that menu out and do the top plane here. Okay, check mark. Now, by doing that, now as these wheels spin, see now my gear spins with them. So everything, as soon as I get this going and I animate and I get an animation, if I do everything correctly now, these will all spin exactly the way they're supposed to in the animation. Okay. Right now, like I said, I'm going to leave this gear kind of in this spot. If you really want to dial it in, you know where it's going to be. In this case, what I'll probably end up doing, I'll just add one more mate to show you. I'll just put a dead center of these two pieces. And the way you can do that is go to mate and go into symmetric, so or excuse me, width. So that's under advanced mates. And if you turn on the width mate, you can pick, and I know it's hard to see, I'm going to pick that face. Hold on, I gotta clear this. Clear selections. This face here to, I know it's going to get hard to see this, to that face right there. And I want it to be width and I want it to be centered. And then the tab selections will be, oh, hold on here, this right here. Okay, that's your tab reference. And then the other tab reference will be this side over here. Okay, and what that just did is, so I said in the first box, the width selections. The width selections are, where are your edges? So I said, okay, I want it to be between that face and there, and I know it's very hard to see, I apologize, to this face here. The tab selections, or the area that I want to measure, is basically, I just picked this face here to there, and what it did is it calculated so that this distance from this tab to this face is exactly the same as this tab here to this face. Okay, and that is called a width mate. All right, it's kind of a nice feature, no guessing, and allows you to lock everything right in the middle. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and stay with that, and that way I can kind of build my gears off of that center mate. Okay, so now I've got my first gear in place. Doing well so far, all right? It's not too big, it's not going to drag. You can see this thing is pretty good size, but the good news is it's smaller than my wheel. Now, this is where I've had kids get caught in the past. They put a 58 tooth gear on here with a 2-inch wheel, and the gear ends up being on the ground. Okay, so you got to make sure you're picking your gears so that they are not hitting the ground. Okay, this is why I'm saying some of you may need to make some adjustments from your sketch to your final design. All right. Now, with that being done, the plan I have, based upon what I resketched yesterday on the new gear ratio I just discussed, is I'm going to have this 58 tooth running into a 38 tooth gear. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to insert another component. So I'm going to go browse for a 38 tooth gear, which I already have done, but I'm going to go take this because this is all by itself. Now, let's go with a front view. Yep. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this wheel and I'm going to hide it. Okay, so I'm going to highlight over here. I'm going to come up in, left click on it, and you can come up here and just say hide component. That's all I want to do is just hide it. Why am I doing that? Is so I can see. Was that the right wheel? That was the wrong wheel. Sorry, that was the other wheel on the other side. Open that back up. Let me see which one is it. This one, hopefully. Yes, it is. Okay, I'm going to hide this one. Now, the reason I'm hiding that is now I can actually see the gear, and this is important. I'll turn the wheel back on in the end. All right, do not be afraid to hide things as necessary to get things to line up. Now, what's going to happen here is I'm going to take this gear, and really it kind of comes to two things. I'm first going to add a pretty simple mate to it. All right, the first mate I'm going to do is just go mate, and I'm just going to take this face here and make it coincident with that face there. All right, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to stop. Okay, now obviously see we are slammed into each other. That's not going to work. So I got to start pulling this thing around. Now here is where it gets interesting. All right, you've got to be thinking about how am I going to mate this gear? Okay, how am I going to make this gear so I can get it to work? If you recall in my original drawing, I have nothing lined up here to where that actually, this gear I'm looking at right now can screw into anything. Okay, there's nothing. It's just floating right now in space. Now, what I've had kids try to do in the past, excuse me, is to come in here and try to drill a hole in the side here. You can try that, but you got to realize this is not a real good way to go. All right, because now you're guessing. What I'm going to do is actually create a block in here that I can put my gears onto. All right, and then kind of line it up. And I'm going to show you that by actually stopping this right here and just starting a new part. And I'm just going to create a simple gear block that is I'm using the 1/4 inch material. I'm going to make it, let's say, a 1/4 inch by, let's say, maybe 2 inches tall by maybe 2 inches long. Let's just start from there, and then I'm going to adjust it as necessary. Okay, and then I'm going to bring that in here and get it kind of in the place I want to get it to. All right, this is going to kind of be one of those things where it's a trial and error. I'm going to get the first piece started, and then you're going to see me as I go through this process. I will constantly be editing that piece to make it fit correctly. Okay, and once you have it in there, it's really easy to edit parts. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pause here. I'm going to start a new part in inches. I'll go ahead and start on the top plane on this one with a new sketch. I'm just going to create a simple rectangle. That rectangle is going to be a 1/4 inch tall because I'm using the 1/4 inch material today. I want this to be heavy duty. Don't use that 8 inch thin stuff because it's too hard to screw in, and a lot of times it will split. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to make this. Let's just start at 3 inches right now. Okay, and I'm going to hit this right here and call it good. Now what I'm going to do is do a feature, extrude boss base, and I'm going to extrude this up 2 inches. Okay, a simple 2 inch block that I'll now come in here and add pine. Okay, so I'm going to go to my materials, go down to my wood and make it pine. Apply, close, and then all I'm going to do on this one is save this as gear block. Save as, desktop, 2020 folder, gear block. Okay, because I'm going to basically, it's a block of wood where all my gears are going to tie into it. All right, going back into my assembly. Okay, I'm going to come in here and insert a component. I'm going to bring in a gear block, throw it out here somewhere. And now what I'm going to do is just kind of mate this into place. Now again, you see this is kind of random. I know maybe some of you are thinking, hey, shouldn't the plan be a little bit more specific? You know, honestly, as I build these, I start off with a base, and then this is the part where it gets really kind of discombobulated, you can say. I kind of bring it in, I adjust, I bring something else in, readjust, bring something else in, readjust. And that's part of what this project is going to be about. It's a lot of it's modifying it to make it work as you go. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to take this and flush it up with this side. Okay. So I'm going to have that block. And then I'm going to take here to this edge here, but I'm going to use a distance mate. So I want to kind of lock that distance right there. I'm going to try 2 inches at first. Yeah, let's go, what does 3 inches give me? 3 inches. I think that will work. So I'm going to have my gears going forward here. My motor is honestly probably going to be right in the center of this car when it's done. I know in my design, I have it towards, kind of the back, but the way I redrew my gears, they're going to be kind of extending along this side. Is probably end up going to be bumping my motor forward. Okay, like I said, that's okay. I'll still put my battery behind it towards the back wheel. That way I can keep my weight kind of over the back wheels so it gets better push power. But it's the only real adjustment I'm probably going to make is this all will kind of come forward to about this point here, because my 38 tooth and then 13s and 38s will start coming this way. Okay, it'll make sense here in a moment. All right, so at that point, I come back into my SolidWorks. That looks good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit check and be done with my tool there. Okay. So now going back into my front view, this is what I'm looking at. So I'm going to kind of blow up really big on this. Now, right now, this isn't too bad. I could go a little bit higher even if I wanted to, knowing I have this. Heck, I can go all the way up to here if I wanted to. That would work. It may be worthwhile. I just don't want to get too close to this edge of the board. So when I put a screw in here, I'm going to probably use screws and washers to mount these so they can spin. I use a screw that's a little bit smaller than the hole so these can spin. If I get too close to the edge, I can split the wood. But I don't want to get so far down here, same thing. I'm going to split in the wood. So I'm kind of looking for that happy place, about maybe ½ inch in to where I can do a small lasered hole right here. And you're going to see that in a second. A small lasered hole to make this work. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and kind of move this. And I think that looks good where I want height wise. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take my gear and I'm going to really blow up on this. Because what I want to do is I want to bring my gear teeth in tight. But I don't want to slam them all the way to the bottom, because now what's going to happen is if you actually were to create this, this would actually bind right here and your gears would stop in real life. Okay, so what I'm going to do is eyeball to where I can kind of see where the gears are just clear right here. So you would have to imagine this, as you can see, would be rolling in without hitting this corner. Okay, so it's rolling in. This one's coming in here. It's going to roll out. This one's rolling in. Then it's going to roll out. So I'm going to keep it pretty close to where those corners do not interfere. So what I'm looking at is getting it far enough in for a good bite. Okay, we don't want it so loose that the gears are they barely touch each other and it's going to start sliding on you. But I don't want it so tight that this right here corner is binding into this, because then what happens is the plastic heats up, and I've seen this before, it will actually weld itself together. Okay, so I'm just going to make some small, tiny adjustments until I just get right where I want. I think that looks pretty darn close. And again, the close I can get without interfering. If you look here, there's a nice little space there. There's a nice little space there. Good and tight in here. I've got more than half the tooth in there. This should be a good position for this. Now, I'm happy where this is located. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to lock this 38 tooth gear to this block. Now, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to left click on this block. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to, you go to, edit part. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to go blue. Everything else will go like see-through, okay? No big deal. It shows you this is the part I'm actually working on, Okay, and this is kind of cool because once you get this in there, this is those small adjustments I was talking about where I'm going to go back and forth between adjusting, where I'm modifying parts within the assembly to make this work. What I'm going to do is I am going to go here and on this face, excuse me, start a new sketch and draw a small little circle right here in the middle. Now the circle I'm going to use, now when I did this for real on the laser engraver, I would make it about 1/2 the size of the hole. Because all I wanted this, the laser to do is put just a small little pilot hole in there so that I know exactly where the tip of my screw is going to go, okay? And by being this accurate, I have a place where the screw is going to bite in so that as I screw in, then the hole will actually tighten up around the screw. If I make it the same size, then your screw will not bite in very hard and it may slide back out. Okay, so I'm going to be what's called a pilot hole. And like I said, I usually make it 1/2 that hole. Well, if you recall that hole right there, we did 0.115, so I'm going to go 0.115 divided by 2. Okay, and hit enter. And that will become my pilot hole. Now, all I'm going to do from here is go to my features, extruded cut, and I'm going to do a through all. Okay, because it's only affecting this part. And hit my check mark. Oh, hold on here. Am I going the wrong way? What's going on? Oops, going the wrong way. Reverse, sorry. And check. Okay, now if you look at this, there. Hold on here. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I apologize. What happened here? Oh, wait. Oh, I did a boss extrude. Dear Lord, Mr. Combs, wake up. Sorry, guys. A little hard to... I just basically added material like a fool. Sorry. You can tell my mind's all over the place right now. Sorry. Features, extruded cut. My bad. No wonder it didn't work, okay? And then this will be a through all. I apologize. Wow. Okay. So now if you look at the part, there's my pilot hole. So imagine me putting a screw in there. And I will show you later, I'm going to put screws in here so you can see this, okay? Because I will actually attach those into Schoology so you can bring those in and make it look realistic. Now I've got my hole where I need it, okay? I can go out of here by hitting this right corner. I'm going to do a quick save and save all parts. Okay, so everything now is saved. There is my hole. Now, it's not quite done yet. I'm going to do my rebuild because I see a rebuild there. I'm going to go ahead and mate. This is important. I'm going to mate that there to the inside of this hole here with a concentric mate. Now it's locked to that hole. Okay, so hear me again. I got it in place, but before I did anything, I modified the block behind it by editing the part in the assembly. Put the hole in there, extrude cut the hole, okay, save that part, save the whole assembly with that part, rebuild, and then come back in, add your mate to this hole, and then what you're going to see here, okay, if I hit my check mark, is that this, and I know I'm going to screw this up for a second, is this now is locked in that place, okay? So now it's free to go around here. Now, if you want to be really accurate, and I'll put these, and I can tell you right now, they're not in the Schoology. I'll put them in probably today. But what I would do at this point is then I would bring in a screw and a washer and pin this into place, okay? But what I want to do is I want to spend a moment readjusting. So let me go back to my front view because I want to be exactly flush. No guessing. I'm going to put this right back into place. That looks perfect. And now what I want to show you is the cool trick of what's called a gear mate. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add a mate between this gear here, the 58, and this gear here, the 38. How do I do that? Well, I go to my mate tool. I'm going to go down to mechanical mates. This is new, mechanical. Gear mate, and right here is the gears. All I'm going to do is pick one edge of my 38 and one edge of my 58. Okay, and then just whatever the ratio is, you can leave it right there. Or what I usually do is I go in here and make it 38 to 58. All right, and hit my check mark. Okay, close out your mate, and now you will see these are moving together. Okay, see it? So now what's happening, watch it from even more from the distance. If I spin this one, look at my wheels working. Everything is starting to mate together. And what you're going to see here in a moment is as I start adding more gears, the ratio continues to build. You will see this back wheel, even though this front gear that I will be twisting later is really fast, this back wheel is barely moving. Okay, so the gear ratios apply. All right, pretty cool. So now again, as you see, this is again why it's so important. I've got this locked to that hole. I'm awesome right there. I've got these exactly where I want them. This is a good bite in. Okay, and now, as you see, nice and slow, as I move it in, I mean, it's right there nice and tight. That's a good interference right there. That's perfect. Okay, boom, it rolls in. This is why we have those rounds. Okay, seeing it roll out. The next one's rolling in. I hope you understand what I mean by rolling, because this one's what we call rolling into this one. This one here is going to roll out. Okay, kind of cool. All right. So at that point, let's go back to isometric and let's do a quick save. I don't want to lose this. Okay, rebuild and save the document. You're darn right. Okay, so I've got my 38 to 50. So going back to my original plan, I've got these two done. Now what's going to happen here is I am now going to butt a 13 and 38 right next to it. So I'm least these 4 gears here are going to be exactly the way I have them here. The only difference is I'm going to take one more 38, 13 and put it out this way. And then the last 13 will be right up here with the motor. Okay, that's the only difference. Instead of stacking, I'm just extending. All right, so let's go back into SOLIDWORKS. I am going to do a 38, 13. All right, now hopefully, I'm looking, I have enough space. If I don't, I'm going to have to adjust this block and go into my mates and push it back, okay? So I'm going to go in now and bring in a 1338. All right, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to do an insert, a 3813 subassembly. Bring it out here. Now, I need to flip this, okay? So I'm going to rotate this around like so, okay? Now, again, I'm going to go in here, kind of bring this up. I'm going to basically, first thing, actually, excuse me, I want to do is I would like to take this face right here and mate it to this face right here. Okay, check. Now, those should be running into each other. Perfect. Now, the problem is you can see my gear block is too far forward. All right, so what I'm going to do is stop for a second right here. Okay, I'm going to do a quick rebuild. I'm going to do a quick save so I don't lose this part. Okay, I'm going to come down to my mates. And so this is where it gets really long. All right. One of the things you could always do is you could folder these things up. You could find where things are and then create a folder for each set of mates. You could also go in here and rename them as you go along, which is really good practice. What I'm going to look for here is, and I'm going to expand this out, is you can look at these names. So for instance, if I come down here, I've got gear base to gear block. So here's the coincident, and the distance. Okay, this coincident, I am going to edit to a distance. And I'm going to make that distance here, let's say, let's go 0.25 inches. Reverse that direction. Okay, and I'm going to look at that. I think that's pretty good because I can put some washers in here. You got to remember, I'm going to have another 3813. I may have to adjust this one more time. Okay, now the downside of this is looking at this part right here. This may get a little too extended. We'll see. If I have to push this back any further, that's a lot of washers I have to put in here to keep that spacing. And so what I may have to do at the end, I had to do this with a model 3 years ago, was actually put another small piece of wood right here and copy that hole into it and basically stagger several blocks in order to get the right amount. So you got to imagine if I try to do a long screw right here and screw it in with a bunch of washers, the chance of this beginning to wobble up and down is really high. I don't want too much space in here. Otherwise, that what we call moment arm becomes really long and it becomes unstable. And now your gears are starting to flutter, which then can get them to start to tilt, and then they bite into each other and weld themselves together. Okay, so as I play along, like I said, I'm gonna have to play the game of adjusting as I go along, and that may be one of my adjustments. Okay, hopefully you understand what I'm saying there and it's making sense. All right, so I'm gonna kind of close this back down a little bit and go back into my front view. So now I've got that spaced. Same exact thing here. I'm gonna take this, kind of light it up here, maybe even bring it down a little bit. I could also add mates between these two of trying to make them, you know, on the same level. In this case, I think I'm gonna go slightly above, okay, and kind of stay right in the middle of this block. Eventually, if this block is really tall, I'll probably end up cutting it down, probably a good 1/2 to 3/4 inch. Why would I do that? Make it lighter, okay? Make my car lighter. That way I guarantee my car can get up that hill. All right, these little small things you don't calculate into your gear ratio. Someone asked before we left, you know, how do you know with your body and everything else? You don't. That's why I said one of the reasons I know, you can probably get your car as a base getting up the hill at 10-1, but when you start adding these other pieces on, that's one of the reasons I found that 30-1 to 60-1 really works well. Okay, because it allows you then to figure out these little things. This little piece could add, you know, maybe another 2 ounces to my car. If I don't take that in consideration, I may not get up the hill. So I'd rather have that higher gear ratio to make sure it works. All right, from here, I'm just going to fine tune, adjust. Let's kind of bring that in again. Looking close. I think that works. Nope, I can see up above. Let's go back out. Tighten that up. This one's a little bit fatter, it looks like. I don't know. I just want to make sure I don't get caught. I think that will work. Maybe up a little bit more. I just want to kind of be right in the middle. I think this will be okay right there. Okay, now, same exact thing we did last time. Okay, I'm going to highlight this back block again. I'm going to go in here and we're going to edit the part. Edit part. Again, same exact thing. Highlight the face. New sketch. I'm going to sketch a small circle. Okay, on this one here, I'm going to now label that 0.115 divided by 2, because that was what our original hole size was. And then this time, two of my features, not adding material, I'm going to cut it away again. I'm going to do a through all and check. Okay, so there's that hole. I'm going to exit out of this. I'm going to do a quick save. Rebuild and save document. Okay. Shrink some of the stuff back up. I don't see any stop signs on there. I'm going to add one more quick relationship so this stays in the right position. That hole there lines up there concentric. So now these are in place. Okay. So getting my gears, sorry, I'd do that one more time. Front view, get nice and close to my gears. And hopefully this is starting to really make sense. Like I said, this is the longest part of the entire design, is getting your gear mates correct. If you can get this dialed in, if we really were to build these, you would find your car would work awesome. Okay, this is the critical piece. Now from here, I am going to go to my mechanical mates. So my mate selection from here will be the mechanical, gear, again, that edge of this tooth to this edge of this tooth. I'm going to make this a 13 and this one a 38. Hit your check mark. Go ahead and do a quick save here. And now, if you go to twist on this, this should be blending in just perfect. Now, backing up even further. Okay, if I even start pulling on this one. Okay, notice this gear in front is moving a lot faster than the wheel in the back. This is how gear ratios work. Okay, we are starting to generate torque. Okay, so now everything is showing blended in. I'm just double checking all my teeth. So kind of keep your eye here and here. Make sure your teeth are still blending. And so far, I am in good shape. Okay, so again, I'm just going to do a quick save. Save and rebuild. And now I've got a 38-13 to a 38 to a 58. Okay, so now going into the next one, I'm going to bring in another 38-13 here. Okay, so this 38-13, is going to butt right into this one, and then we'll finish off with a motor and a 13 here. Okay, so I'm going to do another insert component, another 3813. Okay, I'm going to have to rotate this around so it looks just like this one. The difference is the 13 will now butt into this one, which I already know is going to cause this have to push back more. So I'm telling you now, it looks like I'm going to have to build like kind of a stacked block here, and I will do that in a moment. Okay, it's not a big deal, easy to do, easy, quick adjustments. That's, again, the fun part of this project is you can fine tune constantly through SolidWorks. All right. All right, so let me do a rotate. I do apologize, this video is a little bit long, but I think you're getting the gist of this. And once you get this part, you're going to find the rest of your model should be really straightforward. I am going to show you some cool ways of creating bodies here in the next couple of videos. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to take and flush this face right here, or even this one here, mate that flush with this face here. Okay, check. Now again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to a front view. I'm going to drag this over to here. Okay, now again, I can go higher. It's up to you. I'm probably going to actually stagger this a little bit lower so I can kind of get this uphill, downhill, because I want my 38 tooth or 13 tooth gear that's eventually coming up. I think that's going to be the next one. It is. It's going to be sitting right here. Okay, that's so my motor is going to be sitting right about here with the 13. Okay, I don't want to have to stack my motor way up in the air to make this work. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of, whoops, darn it, go back to my front view. Okay, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to kind of get this into the place I need it. All right, that looks pretty close, right about maybe there. What I'm looking at is this corner. I don't want it to butt in. Okay, I'm going to take and check there. I think this looks really good. I'm going to do a quick rebuild and a quick save. Okay, couple things. If we look in here, I got to move that block back again, another 1/4 inch. All right, so now I got to expand this back out. Let's go back and find that block. Okay, so let's go down and look for gear block. Here's my gear block. There's the other distance. Let's edit that. I'm going to go now to, let's say, a 1/2 inch, 0.5 inch. Maybe I don't need that much. Let's go 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do 0.375 inches so I can keep that pretty close. That looks good. Yeah, that'll be really good because then I only have to put like one washer back there. This one here, I may be able to get away with a stack of washers. This one, I'm going to have to add one more piece of wood here at the end. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that. Hopefully I can do it without butting it into this right here. All right, and we'll have to play that game. So with that said, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and hit my check mark, get out of my mate tool for a second here. All right, and I'm going to close this up a little bit, shrink this back down a little bit. And now what I want to do is go to a front view, highlight my back piece right here. And again, when I highlight that, I'm going to go to edit part. So this is all protected right now. I'm simply going to turn this with a new sketch, small circle in the middle, escape, and then I'm going to take my smart dimension, and again, I'm going to do the 0.115 divided by 2, and then I'm going to go to features, extruded cut, and do a through all check. Okay, go ahead and exit out of the component. Quickly do a rebuild and a save. All right, so now my 3 holes are in there. Okay, and then I'm going to add one more mate here between there and there. So I now have a concentric. All right, while I'm at it, I will add my mechanical mate between this tooth right here on my gear mate, sorry, and this tooth right there. All right, so the gear ratio again is going to be a 13 to a 38. Get my check mark, close out of my mates, quickly do a rebuild and a save. Now, go to my front view, And if you watch from here, now if I start to spin this, now notice this, the speed of this gear, watch how slow it is back here. And just, as I'm doing this, I'm just kind of watching to make sure all of my gears are mating together. So as this one's going really fast, look how much slower my gears are at the back end. Gear ratio, baby. This is generating torque. Okay, I'm building torque right now. I'm almost at 40-to-1. That means 40 times, by the time I'm done, every time the motor will turn 40, okay, or the 13 tooth gear up here turns 40 times, this back gear here will turn once. Okay, so it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. All right, I see a couple stop signs over here, so let me hit a quick rebuild and a quick save. Okay, so hopefully you're all with me right now. I have one more thing left to do. I'm going to bring my motor in, okay? I'm going to bring a motor holder in, and then I'm going to add my last gear on here, my 13 tooth, and then I'm going to throw some screws in here. Actually, I'll probably put the screws in at the very end. The one thing I will tell you right now, looking at my gear block, you see how big this is? I'm going to cut this down probably about 3/4 of an inch, okay? So I'm actually going to go back and edit this one more time. I'm going to expand my block out, but this time what I'm going to do is this Boss Extrude that we did, instead of 2 inches, I'm going to try, let's see what 1.5 looks like. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I can actually probably even go a little bit lower than that, maybe a 1.25. Again, I want enough that the screws can go in without breaking the wood, okay? That's not too bad. Maybe I'll just be safe and go 1.375, and that I think looks pretty sharp. This is far enough away it shouldn't break on this side. That's far enough away it shouldn't break on this side. And I actually could probably end up making this a little bit smaller too. If I go back to the original sketch here and do a spacebar normal 2, I could probably make this go down to, let's say, 2.75. I went the wrong direction there. That's not quite what I wanted. Let me do a quick check. Actually, that may work the way I want it to. Hold on here. And let me get out of this. And let me make sure that whole shift, it did, because what I'm going to do is take this block and slide it back. And that was with a mate. Okay, so again, here we go. The gear block mate. So let's go find my gear block. Where are you, gear block? Right here. That's coincident. That's a distance from the side. This one right here, I would like it, instead of 3 inches, I think is what we put. I'm going to put it at 2.5. Whoop, not millimeters. Ooh, that missed. 2.5 inches. And then hit my check and do a rebuild. And I don't know if that's going to work because I ended up screwing up all of my holes because I've locked the holes in based upon this. So I'd have to end up shifting everything over. That's not what I want to do. So what I'm going to end up doing here is do a Control-Z because I don't want to have to rebuild all this. I mean, I could, but I don't want to. I should have thought of this a little more carefully. So what I'm going to do here is Control-Z, 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 maybe. I may not be able to because I just ended up saving everything. Let me get out of this. And unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to be able to undo any of this. It doesn't look like I can, which really, really, really stinks. So what I'm going to do is actually close out of this, not save it, and I'm going to go back. So if you can see, this is the part right now. Okay, I'm going to close that because I don't want to save it. I'm going to actually reopen my gear car base subassembly, rebuild it back to this original where everything's back where it belongs. Sorry. I'm going to go back and just shrink this down. I'm going to leave this long. That's okay. I'm not going to make that adjustment. This is where sometimes you get screwed up, and then suddenly you've got everything you want, and you make one adjustment, and all your gear mates go out the window. It can be very, very frustrating. So the only thing I'm going to do is just drop this height down. So I'm going to come in here real quick, and I'm just going to do a quick edit on the height, just to drop some weight off of it. I'm going to take that extrusion, and I'm just going to shrink it down to, instead of 2 inches, I'm going to do a 1.375, and I'm going to call it good. Okay? Hit rebuild and save. All right, that way at least I have a little bit smaller of a block, save some weight, but I still have all my gear mates addressed. Okay. What I may have to do, and what I can possibly do, is I may just cut this section off, because here's what I'm seeing already. My motor is going to end up hitting, I need it right about here. And so what my fear is, it's going to end up hitting this block right here. Okay, so what I'll probably end up doing is doing a quick edit, and I know this is adding more steps, but let me go back into here real quick and do a quick edit on this, edit component, edit part. I'm actually going to highlight this front face, start a new sketch, and just draw a quick rectangle. And let's say maybe about right here, I'll just dimension that really quickly so I can be accurate. Let's just make that let's just make it 0.25, just take a 1/4 inch off. That should be enough. And then I'm just going to do a features and extruded cut. This way I don't lose my gear ratios. Okay, this is really important. I don't want to lose those after I just put them all together. Remember, I tried to change it and everything shifted. I still have them now. So if I do a rebuild and a quick save, now I have enough space for my motor, and all my holes are in the same spot, and all my gears are where they're supposed to be. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to quickly bring in my motor, add in one more gear, and then we'll lock everything in place. Okay, and I'll bring my wheel back on. All right, and actually if you want, you can come back to your wheel and actually turn it on now, because I don't need it. So I'm just going to go ahead and make it visible. Okay, so now my wheel's back on. Excuse me. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and insert component. I'm going to go in and browse for my motor. In this case, I'm going to go in and open that up. Oh, not open, sorry. I'm going to go browse for it, which is in my gear car folder. Electric gear car, electric motor, and I am going to do the electric motor. Where are you? Motor base assembly. Where are you? Small electric motor, and I want to do small motor final assembly, and this is the one I share with you, which is a part. Okay, if I try to do the assembly with you, I would have had to take all these parts and you would have to download them together. This makes it a lot easier. It makes it look real. All the parts are there. It just sees it as one component versus 70 components. So I'm going to say open, and I'm going to kind of put it out here in space. Okay, now I'm going to rotate this thing around, because this, and it doesn't matter which way you go with it, I'll kind of keep that little thing on the top. All right, but this is basically where I'm going with this. All right, I'm also going to insert a motor holder. Okay, and I'm going to go back to electric gear car, and see gear car. I'm going to put in, do I have it in here? I don't think I have it in this one. I'm going to have to go find it. I'm thinking I may actually have it at the bottom. Let me look at my parts. Sorry, go to medium. I don't have it there. Go up one. I'm just trying to see if I have it. I have a motor holder I created, and I don't know where I exactly put it. So I will have to find my motor holder and put that into place eventually here. I'm not sure where I put it. Maybe it's in here. There's the battery. I can bring a battery in. Electric car switch. Let me see if it's over in my old car. Let me look at my parts for my car from a long time ago, but I don't know if it is. If not, I will have to find the motor holder and bring it in There it is. I'm going to bring it right here, motor mount. I will share this part with you. I apologize it's not in there right now. Okay, I'm going to bring this in also. All right, now I'm going to add a real quick mate here between, oops, not there, the surface here and the inside here. Okay, check. And I don't care where this is inside. You can just kind of eyeball it. I usually put it right in the middle. Again, I can use the advanced mate. I could do a width mate. And again, I can say, you know what? I want this face here, and let's say that face there. And the tabs I want it to be centered between is that face there and this face right there. And what it does is now puts the motor right in the middle, okay? Right in the middle. All right, then I'm gonna take this bottom, in this top surface, and those hopefully are going to be, oops, standard mate. Those will be coincident. And check. And then what I'll do is take, like, for instance, that face right there and make it parallel to this face right here, okay? So now my motor's kind of there. Now it's able to move wherever, and it's just spinning in there, and that's okay. You could lock the motor down. I don't really care. You may want to eventually, so the motor doesn't spin. If you did, I would actually just, I don't know. You could figure that out on your own. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but what I do want to bring in is my 13-tooth gear. So I'm going to do an insert component. I'm going to go ahead and browse for my 13-tooth gear. Okay, going back into my engine design, electric gear car, and into my gears. I'm going to bring in that 13-tooth, apply it here. All right, now, in this case, I know this looks too big, and that's okay. Just put it on there. I forgot how we did this one. If the newest one has a smaller hole, and I think it does, just go with it. I'm going to go ahead and make this work for this one. There is a sleeve you can push into this, but right now what I'm going to do is just make this this face right here. I'm just going to make it flush to that end right there, okay, like so, and call it good. All right. I could share, and I do have, and I will add it to our Schoology. I do have a component that goes in there. If I go to my electric gear car and the gear car parts, that is like this little adapter reducer. You can take that, and I will add it to Schoology if you want to be really, really, really accurate. Going back in, Control Tab into my car, I could bring this in, this reducer. Okay, now let me just show you how it works. I'm not sure if this is correct size. I think it is. It looks like it is. But basically, you take the inside hole here and mate it onto the shaft right here. Let me do a flip on that, like so. And then you finish off by making that face flush into here. And this basically shoves into, oh, nope. I did this the wrong way. Let me undo that. Go back to that mate. I apologize. Sorry, this mate, and adjust that. Turn this back on. And then the last part of this is making this face flush here with that there. Okay. And that's kind of what we have. We have these, they come with the gears, kind of squeezes it in there. If you want to be really accurate, there you go. Okay. It's up to you. You don't have to do this. You're good if you do, you're good if you don't. But with that said, the last thing I want to do now is I want to take and make this face right here flush with that face right there. And then again, going to my front view, and I'm almost done with this gear mating, is I'm going to take and slide this in. Okay, and I'm going to adjust the gears and kind of slide in. And again, kind of looking at this, blowing up nice and big. Let's move that back a little bit. And I think that right there is really close. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a quick mate here. I'm going to actually add in a distance mate between, now watch carefully, okay? I'm gonna expand out my fly menu. I'm gonna take my motor mount, because that's easy. I'm gonna take the right plane of the motor mount. I'm going to go right here. Instead, though, of making a coincident, I'm just going to go whatever this number is right here. I don't care what it is. Just hit distance mate, because what I'm doing now is I'm automatically locking this into place with whatever distance this is we just basically created. Okay, now by doing that, my motor will not move on me. Okay, so now my motor is in the right position. So the last thing I need to do here is come in, go to my mechanical mates, gear mate, and take the edge of this tooth to the edge of this tooth, make it a 13 to a 38, hit your check mark, close out your mate tool. I'm gonna do a quick rebuild and save so I don't lose anything. Minimize all this stuff. I'm just gonna kind of tighten up my design tree, do another quick save, and now watch carefully. Okay, if I back it up, here we go. See how fast I turn this one here? Okay, now if I go this way, all right, cool thing, all right. Everyone got it? And that tells you now the way the motor is going to be turning, you can see it's going to go this way. That's okay. The beautiful thing is, so if it was going back, no, let's see, it's going to go towards the block. So if I actually turn it towards the block, it's going to go in reverse. Uh-oh. And I always get kids worried about this. Mr. Combs, what's going to happen here if my wheels are going backwards? The beautiful thing with a DC motor is I would tell you to unplug the battery leads and flip them. And then guess what will happen? It'll go the opposite direction. Okay, so I don't really care if when you animate this, I do want your gears to go forward so I can see your wheels are actually working. And I'll show you that in another video, how to create an animation at the end. But at this point, I now have a gear train with my motor set up, okay? What I'll do over the next couple videos is I'm gonna actually build a couple more blocks in here and get these holes. So I'm gonna have a gear block like 2 and a gear block 3, mount them in there. And I'll also add in my screws, okay? This video's gone long enough, so what I'm gonna do at this point is save this. I'm gonna bring in the screw and washers for you so you can put screws and washers in here. I will also share the adapters so you can put the adapter in. All right, in the next video, I will go through adding the blocks and the screws in here. Okay, so you can see how that works. And then what I'll do from there is bring in the battery and locate the battery and call this basically top surface done. But basically at this point, I'm going to call this good. Next video, we'll kind of finish off on this piece. I'm going to go through 2 things. Finishing this assembly, we're going to do a screen capture that you're going to submit. And basically that's very simple by using just the snipping tool down here. And all I'm going to want you to do is go to a new. I'm going to come here. I just want you to do this. I want you to save this as a JPEG. And then I want you to upload it. So I'm going to do a save. Okay, I'm going to save it into my desktop gear car folder. I'm going to call this gear car base subassembly, and I'm going to go here instead of this, and I'm underscore my last name. Okay, so each of you will have your own last name on there. Okay, it's going to be a JPEG. I'll hit save, and then that file, then if you go now into your folder that you are creating your gear car from, I would like you to submit this picture into Schoology. Okay, all I'm gonna do is just check it off. Eventually, you're gonna have to do an animation for me. I'll grade on that, and then starting on the next drawing or the next video I create, I'll finish up this base assembly. We're gonna start talking about drawings, get you going on those drawings. I'll start sharing those next week because I want drawings started to be submitted, and then I'm gonna start walking you through how to create the body of your vehicle. Okay, so I hope you got a lot out of this. Like I said, I'll add the battery and finish off the block with screws next time. I'll get those shared to Schoology. In the meantime, Keep plugging away at this. I'm excited to see. I graded you guys' wheels. I'm very impressed with some of the ones I saw. I'm excited for the cars you're creating. Have some fun with this, okay? Keep working. Until then,